Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation. Our group has chosen a journal article on the foreign domestic workers in Singapore. I'm Raquel.
I'm Indrik.
And I'm Audrey.
This article focuses on the shift in policy planning regarding the empowering and protection of foreign domestic workers. However, these changes have been ineffective. Let us first look at the policies that were being addressed in the journal article. First, we have the standardized work agreements. The main aim of this agreement is to balance out the unequal power relationship between the employers and employees. Even though it works on paper, in practice, employers cut corners and may not give their domestic helpers the off days that they rightly deserve, or get them to help out at their businesses illegally, or make them work for friends. Such cases are the ones that fall in between the gaps of these agreements in place, as they are hard to monitor. Some domestic workers may choose not to report such cases for fear that their employers may send them home when they find their attitude dissatisfactory. Moving on to the limit on minimum age and education level of the domestic workers. This limit may have many negative implications to the foreign domestic workers, especially if they fail to pass the tests within the short span of 3 days. They will then be deported back to their home country. It is also reported that as a result of this restrictive ruling, there is a decline in the inflow of foreign domestic workers. There are also stricter penalties for the abuse and ill treatment of foreign domestic workers. These penalties have limited effectiveness as it is hard to convict every single case due to the private nature of the abuse and ill treatment cases.
The next policy is stricter regulations on maid agencies. The government introduced a demerit system accrediting maid agencies, which definitely will make them more careful in the selection and operation. This regulation also requires maid agencies to educate employers. It is done through employers' orientation program and giving out guidebooks, which aim to provide better information for employers on their roles and responsibility. Nonetheless, these laws are ineffective when FDW makes a complaint, which is unlikely the case, as most FDWs are not aware of what they are supposed to do. For this policy, employers are encouraged to give their FDW sufficient notice of her repatriation and pay the tickets on the expiry, cancellation, or revocation of work permit. The employer is required to give the worker only a 1-week notice. Given insufficient time, the FDWs usually end up being forced to return home. FDWs are also encouraged to go through the legal channel in order for them to be entitled rights, such as to lodge a complaint. This is not effective as most FDWs are unfamiliar with the procedures and even are not aware of their rights. Furthermore, going through legal process is much costlier, which causes some FDWs deliberately avoiding it. As a result, they are not entitled with the rights. Lastly, the healthcare policy has also been changed to better empower FDW. It demands employers to bear the full cost of an FDW's medical care. Coverage in the form of medical insurance amounting to $5,000 a year for inpatient care and day surgery. This requirement is included as FDWs no longer have the access to the subsidy system previously available through polyclinics. Generally, this policy has been well received by FDWs since it protects the worker. However, as compensation comes only after the injury, disablement, or even death, the benefits in effect may be offset by the losses she suffers.
Although the author has brought out some very good points, she has presented a very one-sided argument. Let's take a look at some of the things we felt that she could have done better. Firstly, and most obviously, she fails to consider the other side of the story, the employers. Sometimes, it is the employer that falls victim to the maids, who steal, cheat, are uncooperative, or are problematic. By not mentioning such cases, she makes it seem like the FDWs are the only victims in the equation. Next, she overgeneralizes by not considering the various family types in Singapore. With an aging population, it's common for families to hire FDWs to take care of their aging parents, who very often require round-the-clock care. Even though these mates may not get a day off, the families they are attached to treat them just like family. Hence, this may not necessarily be a case of mistreatment. The author also did not give any concrete evidence to show the prevalence of such cases in Singapore. By presenting such a one-sided story without any statistics, it may risk giving the impression that such cases are more common than they really are. Lastly, this article focuses on criticizing the various labour policies in place, but fails to suggest solutions or improvements that could be made. After having read and reflecting on the article, we conclude that making policies that empower and protect FDWs is a delicate and difficult task, as it is difficult to find a fine balance between protecting an individual's rights and welfare and assuring locals that they are the government's priority. In addition, although this article doesn't offer any solutions, it does the job of raising awareness of cases of mistreatment to FDWs, which is the first step to shedding light on this particular hidden community.
Thank you for watching!